Okay, we'll start by disconnecting the ABS line. We're detaching the ABS line here instead of from the wheel hub because sometimes you'll damage the connection by its removal. Now we'll disconnect the brake line. It's 12 millimeter. Now we'll disconnect the brake caliper. Now we'll remove the brake caliper brackets. Now we'll remove these rotor retention screws. I'll use my impact tool. Okay, this rotor is stuck in place, so with some hammer vibrations, you may be able to get it off. Now we'll remove the CV axle nut. Okay, then we'll remove the tie rod end. We'll detach this with vibration. Now we'll remove the front strut by taking these bolts off, nuts and bolts. Now we'll separate the steering knuckle from the suspension strut. So we'll go to the top strut nuts and physically remove the strut. Now before I remove this one, I'm going to use my right hand to support the strut so it doesn't drop. Now we remove the CV axle from the steering knuckle and hub. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, that took care of that problem. So I'll take the CV axle and support it up by putting this strap to the top. There we go. So I'll move the cotter pin on the bottom ball joint. See, this ball joint's shut. I'll do some hammer blows here to knock it loose. We have to remove the sway bar link, detach it from the control arm. Now we'll detach the control arm. We'll use a wobble attachment to a 19 millimeter socket. Attach it from the bottom. And this is broken. Before putting on the new control arm, you have to detach the sway bar link on the other side, or else you won't be able to lift the sway bar high enough to slide the new control arm in place. The sway bar link here has been detached on the right side, so we're working on the left side, but if the right side were attached, I wouldn't be able to move this sway bar up to facilitate the installation of the new control arm. Let's see if that helps. Yep. Okay. Line up the holes. Alright, got the thread started there. I'm not going to thread it all the way in, just enough to get it started. This is a special ball joint removal tool specifically made for Hondas. If you notice a cutout here, it's to position over the ball joint, top of the ball joint, without interfering with the steering knuckle over here. And this tool over here is what pushes against the ball joint to press it out. Okay, now we'll torque it. And there's the old ball joint. Now this is a new ball joint. We just fit it through here. Then we'll be putting a snap ring on here. Now we'll reattach the new ball joint to from the steering knuckle to the new control arm. A little grease in the splines of the CV axle, so next time it won't be so hard to remove. There we go. I'm going to hold the shaft of the sway bar link with this hex socket because it's moving with the nut. Okay, here we go. That seems pretty loose. Okay, now we'll reconnect the strut assembly. This arrow up here has to be lined up with the steering knuckle connection port. So I have to turn this. There's also another arrow right here. There we go. What I'll do is line up that white paint mark, this little dimple, with that point over here. So we over torqued this slightly too much, so I'll just reverse it a little bit. We're almost there. There, perfect. That was the original indentation for the torque setting. I'll put some anti-seize on the hub so next time the rotor doesn't get stuck on the hub. This doesn't have to get torqued on, just has to be hand tightened. We'll now attach the outer tie rod end. We just put a little grease on here. Next time it won't be so hard to take off. Just the bolts. Put the cotter pin in. Going to slightly recess the caliper piston so I could get it back on to the brake pads without too much problem. So I only have to turn it in just a little bit. I'll just lubricate the caliper pin right here a little bit. Okay. Now I just have to put on this bolt over here. I'm going to secure the brake line to the strut. So this is the ABS connector. I gotta resecure it to the strut. Tiny 10mm bolt. Now I gotta reconnect this ABS connector. And we're done.